Welcome to recording W-2s in Drake software. This screenshot is of the data entry screen of Drake, but it's a typical W-2 screen or page where you'll have your federal ID number, the wages, federal withholding. So the W-2 is just going to report income earned by the employee, and then right here is the employer's name, and then how much federal taxes and state taxes were taken out to determine whether they're going to get a refund or they're going to owe money at the end of the year. So I'm going to go ahead and pull Drake over here. And to go into the W-2 screen, you're on the General tab right here, and right here, W-2, I can just left click, go right into W-2 screen, or I can type W-2 at the bottom and then hit enter. Whichever way is easier. Now in this case, I had some data in here. If I hit escape, I go back to the data, the main page. If I'm doing a returning client's return and they actually had W-2s, it'll pull forward, assuming that the client is going to be working at that same employer. If they're not, you simply would click in here, Control D, and then you can delete it. So if I want to go ahead and enter, it's going to go ahead, and as you notice what's flagged here, T and S, taxpayer or spouse. So it's very important to tell us, is the taxpayer the one that's earned the money, or is it the spouse? So if you get these wrong, that can definitely cause problems by not applying income to the right person. So I'll put T, and if you don't put anything in there, it's going to default to taxpayer, but let's just, for good practice, put a T or an S. This field F, you're never going to have to put anything in here. Special tax treatment. The only time you'll have that is if you deal with someone who got paid that's a military, active duty. Usually it's coming from the defense, finance, and accounting. Then you can select the drop down here and select military wages, and they're not taxable to the state of Michigan. But typically you won't see that. Let me go back in here, so I'm just going to take that out of there. So then you're just going to enter the EIN that's on the W-2. In this example, I have X-Tax. It's going to pre-fill the company name. Typically, we have all the EINs in the system. If you don't, you're just going to type the company's name in here and address, just like on the W-2. Then you're going to go ahead and enter the wages in. And you want to make sure you round. Don't put cents in. If you do put cents in, Drake will automatically round it for you, so that's fine. So if I were to put 54, it's going to round it all the way up to, in this case, to the dollar. Then you're going to put in the federal amount. It's $2,500. Oops. Did you notice that box 1, 3, and 5 automatically pre-filled? Social Security and Medicare automatically pre-filled because those are set percentages based on your wages. Now, if you have down here in box 12, say they took money out for a 401k, which is for their retirement, typically that's not going to be taxable. So it'd be logged in here, and then you normally would have box 1 would show wages of $22,000, and this would actually be 24, because retirement money is taxable for Social Security and Medicare purposes, but not for, up here it's strictly federal purposes, and down here would be the state. So that would be why your box 1 and 3 would be different, if there's something here coded in box 12. One thing I want to point out right here, box 10, dependent care benefits, that sometimes this is overlooked, and we'll talk about that when we talk about dependent care, but just be careful, box 10 isn't overlooked. Then they might have a retirement plan, so that may be checked on the W-2. 14, typically there's nothing in there. If there is, just go ahead and key it in. All you're doing is doing data entry. Take it from the W-2 and you're putting it in Drake. Coming down here to box 15, again, you're probably going to mostly be doing Michigan tax returns. Just type the state. If it's Ohio, then you're just going to type Ohio, OH. So here's all the states. So then Drake is going to know what state tax return to produce. In the manual, we mentioned that the state ID is not required. It actually is required now for electronic filing purposes, so you need to enter something in there. If there's nothing entered, either enter what's on the W-2 or you can use the federal ID number up here and just put it in down here. It doesn't affect the tax return at all, but we aren't able to e-file the return unless there is something in the state ID. State wages are typically going to be pre-filled based on what was recorded up here in box 1. And then you've got to enter whatever the state withholding are, whatever they took out for state income tax. And then local wages. This will be covered when you talk about the city of Lansing or city of Jackson. Let's just say they live in the city. So that local wages, you are going to have to key those in. And then you have to say locality code. Say it's Lansing. If you look at the drop down here, Lansing. So it's going to filter based on, it says state of Michigan, and these are all the cities where there's city income tax. So again, just take off whatever's in the W-2. All right, now from here, now I have some data in here. I can actually view the tax return and see where this income is flowing to. So if I do a Control-V, that's going to produce a tax return. This is the page that shows up. And then I just hit Continue or Enter. And I'm going to flow to a lot of messages here. You can ignore those. Form 1040. And this is for Betty. And here's the wages. So those are W-2 wages, line 7, wages, attached form W-2. If we were paper filing, it's going to scroll all the way back. And then you can see this is where the federal taxes came that we keyed in box 2. Flowed to line 64. We're not going to discuss anything else, but I just wanted to point out, once you key the W-2 wages in, this is where they're going to flow to, is on line 7. And then on the back side, all the way down to it produces, in this case, it produces a refund. So that's how you enter. If I hit escape and go back to data entry, that's how you enter W-2 wages if you have more than one. Just like for dependents, I'm just going to hit page down, and I can enter another W-2. I can enter as many W-2s as the client has. And again, just make sure you put T or an S for taxpayer spouse. And the reason these are highlighted in blue is there needs to be something in there in order for you to be able to electronically file. Thank you.